I'm going on a vacation, a real one, not one where my laptop is on my lap burning from the heat because I'm working at the beach. No, not a vacation where I'm taking calls around the clock, where I have my camera on with Zoom. No, I'm taking a real vacation. How? Watch the rest of this video to find out. Welcome back to Transaction Care, the #1 real estate show on the market. My name is Lillian Hernandez, your resident care coordinator, and this is Transaction Care. My job is to demystify the business of real estate as told from a real estate transaction coordinator's point of view. So let's get started. Taking a vacation as a solopreneur, real estate transaction coordinator, wherever you fit within that spectrum, I want to give you some of the tips that I use and implement when I'm about to travel. Keep in mind, I am taking a vacation. By the time this is posted, I probably would have been back from my vacation. But as I'm preparing for this trip, I want to give you guys some tips on what I've been doing in order to get comfortable with actually leaving my business in someone else's hands. Yeah, scary stuff. How do I take time off as a solopreneur to travel and disconnect? Because let me tell you, it is an extreme sport. It is an extreme practice in trust, in faith, in the ability to communicate. It takes a lot of planning, a lot of organizing. We'll touch on all of these topics in this episode. So let's get into it ASAP. As a solopreneur that loves to travel, that definitely does take advantage of the ability to work remotely, meaning I am location independent. I could work from anywhere in the world as long as there is reliable internet, Wi-Fi, and places to charge my equipment so I can stay connected with my customers and my clients. Now, in my mind, I like to separate travel. When I say I'm traveling, that means I'm leaving the country where internet, Wi-Fi connection could be sketchy, where I am forced to disconnect, where I am forced to take time off and take a real break for myself. Doesn't mean I've ultimately disconnected entirely. Not necessarily, but it does mean that I'm spending a majority of that time on me and just relaxing and getting into me mode versus my first thoughts being my emails, what's on the agenda, what do I have to complete today, who do I need to talk to. So it's definitely a mind shift when I know I'm about to travel out of the country. Now, when I travel as a solopreneur, what I call locally, meaning within the United States, which I tend to do more on the West Coast where I'm located. I'm based out of the Bay Area in California. So a lot of my travel is Northwest, Southwest, not too much East Coast or Midwest, but for the most part, if I travel anywhere within the United States, I technically don't really consider that time off, if that makes sense. Also, a lot of this is dependent on how much business you have. From my point of view, if I have a lot and I really need to disconnect, that's when I start to involve other people. But if I'm just traveling locally and I know I'm going to have time blocks within my schedule while I'm out of town to check a bulk of my emails, reply, get things done, I'll sacrifice that time and just do some of that work if I'm not able to get to it before I leave, either in the morning or when I get back in the evening, just to alleviate some of that pressure from me. Most times when I'm traveling locally, I don't feel the need to bring someone else on to cover my workload, especially if it's not that big of a workload. Or if you do have a huge workload, I'm going to assume you already have someone working with you. So if I'm assuming wrong, then stay tuned. I'll get into all of the details in this episode. But for the most part, from my point of view, if I'm just going to LA for the weekend or for a long weekend, say a Thursday to a Monday, mind you, I already have boundaries with the weekends. I already have boundaries from anything between 9 to 5 is when I'm available. So as long as I communicate and I know I'm going to be away from my desk for an entire day, and I know I'm expecting, and I know on Thursdays and Fridays I tend to get a higher volume of either phone calls or emails, maybe just send a text or a mass email to those that you know will be contacting you the most, and letting them know, like, hey, I'm going to be out of the office today. You don't have to get into specifics. They don't need to know you're in New York at the Statue of Liberty with your laptop in your backpack. They don't have to know all that. They really don't. They just need to know that you're going to be away from your desk from this time to this time. You can also say, I will be back from this time to this time. If it's urgent, please call this cell phone number, text this number. There are ways around this whole situation without them feeling like you've abandoned them completely. Because believe me, there have been times where I'm at my laptop for a few hours and then I just get up to use the restroom or to grab a snack, and I come back and my phone has 50 missed calls, emails are out of control. Where are you? Where are you? Most of the time I don't hold on to clients like that. And it's just the way it works, right? Like, you could be at your desk all day responding perfectly, everything's going smoothly, and you take a little break and all of a sudden you're not at your desk. Why aren't you working? Where are you? Like that. A lot of that behavior is why I quit my job as well, to work to work for myself, in a sense. I mean, no one technically works for themselves. We're always servicing and helping others, but ultimately I left those kind of office tendencies and politics and unrealistic expectations a long time ago. And if someone is not comfortable with you taking breaks or with you taking time off for yourself, then I personally would reconsider that working relationship, because you want people to encourage you to take time off. You want to be working with people that are in alignment with you and your values. And you can also let them know as you're, onboarding them, like, hey, how often do you travel? And then you can come back with, well, this is what I have planned for the year. So please, anticipate me being away from my desk in, say we're in January, in August. So you're giving them plenty of time to know that you have travel coming up, or that even if you don't have travel planned, you can let them know that you are a frequent flyer, but you do still get the job done. But you will also communicate with them ahead of time when you are leaving that you will have people in place to cover you, or that you'll still have your cell phone on. You just won't be checking emails from 9 to 5. It may be, at night, but please respect my boundaries. Anything urgent, just call me directly and I'll make sure that it's done on time. So when I'm not traveling locally, meaning I'm not in the United States, internet Wi-Fi is sketchy, it's uncertain. What do I do in those situations? Now, this is where it can get tricky. So I haven't taken a full-fledged vacation out of the country in 4 years. Even pre-pandemic, the last trip where I truly disconnected, it was very intentional. It was planned strategically to where it wouldn't be in a busier period of the market. And I communicated often and frequently with those that I was working with that I will be out of town during this period of time. Now, in my case, one of my main brokerages that I work for has a department in place that if you need coverage, there are TCs on reserve that can cover for you. So I definitely took advantage of that as soon as possible. As soon as I knew I was going to be taking time off, and where I knew I wanted to disconnect and I needed to have someone covering my business, I took advantage of that department. Now, if you are working on your own where that is not a service to you, then I would definitely start looking now if you know you're going to be traveling in a month or anytime after that, because one, maybe you could do a test run with them and have them do one of your files and see how it feels. So then you can build that trust and build that rapport with them. Or two, maybe consider hiring a virtual assistant with real estate transaction coordinator experience or whatever field you're working in. You can also reach out to other transaction coordinators that may be in a slower period of their business and they're looking to increase sales or whatever the case may be. You just want to start building your network and building that trust with people that you can support each other, whether they're traveling and then you can make some extra income, or you're traveling and they want to make some extra income, or they're willing to help. Because keep in mind, you also will have to pay these people. Unless you are blessed with someone that is generous and willing to do this for free, anticipate spending extra money for someone to cover your business while you are out of town. Which is another reason why when I travel locally within the US, I don't really reach out to people to cover for me, because I do my best to work extra hours before I leave to make sure nothing falls through the cracks. I'm communicating constantly to people, letting them know, hey, I'm away from my desk right now. If it's an emergency, can you please text or call me? I will get to it right away. I will be away from my desk from 9 to 3 p.m., but I'll be back at 4, whatever the case may be. Because things happen. Life happens. Emergencies happen. Doctor appointments happen. I recently, during the time of this filming, I'm currently going through a dental emergency as we speak. So I've been away from my desk and didn't even have time to consider coverage. You know what I mean? I've kind of just been working different hours, and that's another thing you can consider. Maybe while you're traveling and you may not have the funds to ultimately disconnect, just redo your time blocks, redo when you're available, but always communicate when you are out of town, because no matter what, the agents just want to know that you are available to respond, because most of the things that need to be done aren't going to be urgent, and some of the tasks can be done before you leave, whether it's a request or uploading or sending things out for signatures. Those can all be done before you leave, or those can be done before you start your travel day. Maybe you just wake up an hour earlier, or you sleep an hour later, or you do have your laptop in a backpack while you're at the Statue of Liberty and you're just, while you're in line, working. Also, our phones, you could do a lot on your cell phones as well. So also keep in mind creating systems for yourself that keep you mobile, right? Like in any situation, whether you have to get up right now and go pick up your kids early from school because they got food poisoning, or you have to go to the dentist out of nowhere and you can only rely on your phone because they don't allow laptops. I don't know. Like think about your business also in that perspective. Like if I had to leave and or if my laptop just died out of nowhere, like besides vacations, like we also have to look at taking time away from many possible scenarios. Like my laptop, I just purchased a new laptop. I switched from a PC to a Mac a couple months ago. Best decision of my life. Let me know if you want a video on that as well. I would definitely touch on that. But basically, my laptop just died out of nowhere. I had it for 4 years. There was nothing wrong with it ever. Well, the battery was giving me issues, but it was nothing but a plug-in and I was good to go. And out of nowhere, it just stopped working. So I had to rely on my phone. I was constantly in and out of stores. Like, all right, what am I going to buy something? I was looking, any chance I could to just get things done, but also just fill this void without a laptop. The same way you would communicate that you're leaving out of town is the same way you would communicate if you had an emergency, right? Because we can't control those things, and it's going to take us away from our work whether we want it or not. So that's why it's important to, one, stay on top of it, to have a great transaction management software in place to keep you in check and to keep your agenda in line and to tell you what you have ahead. So when you have some downtime, you can work on those things just in case there is an emergency. And there will be days where you fall behind in work and life just happens and you have to step away. And unfortunately, some agents aren't going to take to that well. Some agents may get frustrated that you even took time away from your desk to have an emergency or to travel or to spend time with your family. And like I said, you want to reevaluate those working relationships, because those just really should not be people you work with. No one should have to deal with that type of abuse. You should be taking vacation. You should be taking time for your family. You should have the space to, and the understanding from others that life happens and you have emergencies. But you also have to be mindful in those moments that communication is key. You have to just communicate these things, and how you approach them is going to impact whether those clients stay with you, or if something is just going to fall through the cracks, or you'll just get to it at a later time. I think any of those scenarios can easily be handled with a simple text, a simple phone call, and just being aware that it's happening. Whether you're traveling next year, tonight, whatever the case may be, it is possible to get it done accordingly. And going back to hiring someone when you're away from your desk, that's where having your checklist in order, your passwords in a safe place to just hand someone, building rapport and trust, as I mentioned, because it is a big deal. You know, it's a competitive market, whether you're a realtor, a transaction coordinator, admin, whatever the case may be. You can't help but have some trust issues that, oh my goodness, I've been working by myself this entire time, and now I have to learn how to welcome someone into my business and to make sure that they get things done accordingly. And everyone has their own different styles and workflows and systems in place that may be totally different from the way you do things, and down to the way they save files and what they name them, if they even rename them, and then you come back to a completely different looking file. Everyone operates differently. So if you know you love to travel and you're a solopreneur, and there may be days where you're going to need to step away, or you know you're going to consistently be stepping away into areas where there may not be reliable internet or Wi-Fi, or you ultimately just want to disconnect, then I would consider finding a virtual assistant or another team member, another transaction coordinator to have on your team, like some sort of buddy system that you both can have in place to cover each other. I would do some research on TCs or companies that offer vacation coverage, because that goes a long way as well. Doing a test run with them, obviously, because you don't want to just go in blindly unless you have to. And communication. I can't stress that enough. Realtors ultimately just want to know that you're alive and that you're going to get their work done. It's a harsh reality. Most of the time they don't care what you're doing. They just care that you're getting their stuff done. Your grandma could be on her deathbed. They won't care. They just need to know, will my timeline go out today? And if it can't, tell them why. And maybe they'll lighten up and say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. My condolences. Let me know what I can do. I'll take care of it myself, right? Those you work with should also be well versed in what you do as well. Maybe not in the best way, but they should have an idea of how to do certain things, or be okay with things happening a little later. And in the moment, I know if something is happening at the last minute, whether it's last minute travel or an emergency, and you can't really step away to notify them, do your best to kind of get out of that fog, to let them know something. Even if you contact the office manager and say, hey, these are the agents that I'm working with. Can you please do me a favor? Can you just let them know I'm going through an emergency right now, and that I will be back at my desk first thing in the morning to sort things out, and to let you know if I will be able to come back to my desk or if I need some time off. Then that's it, right? That way it saves you time from contacting every single person on your roster, especially if they belong to one brokerage. But if you're working with someone, if you're in the middle of a transaction with someone, and you feel like it's best to just contact them directly, then just shoot them a text. Start with that. It's to the point, it's direct, and if they need to talk to you, they can call you and leave you a voicemail or shoot you an email. But just be very clear with the communication, and it will just bring a lot of ease when you do travel or take those short trips, those long trips, or have any emergencies where you need to step away. Because being a solopreneur is, you have every job. You are everything. You are in charge of running the ship. You are admin, you are HR, you are marketing, you are the janitors, you are the boss, you are all of those things. And if we don't have some sort of system or people in place to help us in times of need, whether it's to disconnect, to cover for emergencies, it's just going to bring on more stress. So I implore you to look into these different types of systems and these different ways of communication if you haven't already done so. If I've missed any other tips, please share them on what you do when you step away as a solopreneur, as a real estate transaction coordinator, or even as a realtor. Wherever you, whatever role you are doing where you are working for yourself alone and it requires you to step away, how do you communicate that to those around you? How do you hire coverage? How do you make sure that your business doesn't fall apart while you were away? Or how do you build that trust so you can break away, so you can take those breaks? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you. But this is just some of my insight, some of my tips from the top of my head, from my own experiences, from what I've read online. Hope you find them helpful. You know, I will always encourage people to take breaks, to take time for themselves. If you know you're going to anticipate a possible emergency, if someone in your family on either end is sick or wants to take a vacation in the future, start that process then. Don't wait for it to happen for you to plan things and then it falls apart. You know what? I didn't even mention this, but basically for those that are also embarking on maternity leave, paternity leave, parenting, things like that, all of this can apply in all of those areas. Emergencies, parenting, vacations, time off, disconnecting. Consider all of these steps, all of these tools, all of these resources, and early and often, and you'll be great. Have fun on your trips wherever you go, and I hope this video helps you. If I have provided value to you in your business, in your day, please hit that subscribe button, follow button, leave a comment. If you'd like to support this channel monetarily, hit that buy me a coffee link. It goes back into the business, and I truly appreciate your support in advance. Always remember, your time is worth it. Let's coordinate. My name is Lillian Hernandez, your resident care coordinator, and this is Transaction Care. Until the next episode, thank you for watching.